Alright, so, associative property. Anyone have any ideas what the associative property is? Anyone remember? Ethan? Okay, so what it's telling you for associative property is that it's the way factors are grouped. So it's the way factors are grouped does not change the sum or product. When I say grouped, what's something we should think about? If I'm grouping something, I'm putting something inside of parentheses. So grouped has to deal with parentheses. Doesn't mean it's always going to, it's always going to have parentheses, but that does not mean every single parentheses is going to be associative. And I'll show you why in a minute. So if that's associative, what's commutative? Because it's very similar to associative, it's a little bit different. What do you think, McKenna?
It's like where you have like something like it could be in parentheses and you still have maybe two, I don't know, 4 plus 3, and then outside the parentheses it'll have plus, I don't know, like 4, and then it'll have the equal sign, and then it'll have maybe 4 plus 3, then parentheses, and then parentheses 3 plus 3, something like that.
Okay, you're on the right track, but that's actually the associative property, okay? Yep. So let's write down an example. So here's what the associative property kind of looks like. I could have 9 plus 8 inside parentheses, and then outside parentheses I could have plus 7. When I say the factors are grouped, meaning they're changing what is inside parentheses. So right now I have 9 plus 8 inside parentheses. I'm not changing my order up at all. I'm still going to write 9 plus 8 plus 7. Those numbers remain the same. Does everyone see that? It was 9 plus 8 plus 7, 9 plus 8 plus 7. The only difference is where my parentheses are going. So right now it's around the 9 and the 8. Instead of it being around the 9 and the 8, it's going to be around the 8 and the 7. So all that changes with the associative property is what is being grouped inside parentheses. But your answer will remain the same no matter how you solve it. I could also have it be a multiplication example. So I could have 4 times 3 inside parentheses times 2 outside parentheses. And that's going to be equal to the same numbers, 4 times 3 times 2. The only difference is going to be where I group my parentheses. So right now it's around the 4 and the 3. So instead of it being around the 4 and the 3, it's going to be around the 3 and the 2. So do we see how associative the only thing changes is the parenthesis signs? We could change up some numbers, but you just won't see that a whole lot. So the commutative property, a little bit different. Here my order really didn't change, did it? The commutative property has to deal with the order. So it's the order in which factors are arranged. Does not change the sum or the product. So here's what I mean by that. The easiest way to think about this is if I have 4 plus 8. 4 plus 8 is the same exact thing. It's equal to me also saying 8 plus 4. Meaning 4 plus 8 is exactly like 8 plus 4. The order does not matter. I could also do a multiplication problem and say 9 times 4 is exactly the same thing as saying what? 4 times 9. We're going to get the same exact answer. So the order does not matter. I could do this with 3 numbers, I could do it with 4 numbers, I could do it with multiple numbers. Is that understood? The order does not matter as long as you are adding the whole thing or multiplying the whole thing. That would be a commutative. Do we see the difference between associative and commutative? Because students always mess that up. Because it's a little weird. Okay, so identity. Okay, if I'm talking about identity property of addition. Okay. Identity. What do we think of when we think of the word identity? Christian?
Who someone is.
Who someone is. So if we're talking about numbers, and I give you the number 10, what's the identity of that number?
10.
It's 10, meaning I want my answer to be what? So what do I do to 10 if I'm doing what operation to get me to 10? Add what?
0.
That right there is your identity property of addition. So here's what it says. It's the sum means addition, of a number. In this case we chose 10, but it can be any number it wants to, and 0, meaning I'm going to do a number plus 0 is the number. Meaning anytime you see a number plus 0 equals that number, 9 plus 0 equals 9, that's the identity property. Every single time. Specifically identity of addition. So if that's identity of addition, I can also have identity of multiplication. So same thing. If I give you the example of 10, I want my answer to equal what? 10. And what operation are we doing? So 10 times what gives me 10? 1. So the identity property of addition means you add 0. The identity property of multiplication means you multiply by 1. So it says the product of a number and 1, meaning the product, multiplication, any number, and 1, any number times 1, is the number. So, your task is to be able to identify properties. So if we look down at the bottom, it gives a bunch of different examples, and you just have to tell me, is that a commutative, associative, or identity? You have to be able to label. Okay, so if we look at this first one, it says 8 plus 4 plus 3 equals 4 plus 8 plus 3. Everyone write down whether you think it's associative, commutative, or identity. What do we think? It is the commutative. Good job. It's because the order changes, the order does not matter. Everyone answer the next one. It says 8 plus 0 equals 8. Associative, commutative, or identity? Identity. Everyone answer the next one. 4 times 1 times 4. That is also identity. Yes, ma'am.
You have to say like identity of addition.
Should you? Yes. Am I going to worry about that right now? No. Okay, everyone. This is where it gets a little harder. So it says 8 times 4 in parentheses times 3. That's equal to 4 times 8 times 3 inside parentheses. This one's a little tricky. What's the one we can get rid of right away? Identity. We know it's not identity, so it's either commutative or associative. So the question is, associative we talked about being inside parentheses, right guys? So I have parentheses. The question is what's inside parentheses, does the numbers change?
Yes.
So if my numbers change by what's based on inside parentheses, my answer is going to be what? Associative. So if what's inside parentheses changes, it is associative. If we look at the next one, it says 8 times 4 in parentheses times 3 outside. That's equal to 4 times 8 inside parentheses times 3 on the outside. Did what's in parentheses, did that change at all? Did my numbers change?
No.
The numbers stayed the same. So because what's inside parentheses stays the same, my answer is it's not commutative. Because in order for it to be associative, the numbers inside parentheses have to change. This is an order thing, and commutative is order. I know that's weird, but does that kind of make sense? So think about associative, what's inside parentheses has to change. Commutative, order. So everyone answer that last one for me. It says 8 plus 4 in parentheses, plus 3 outside, and then 8 plus, and then inside parentheses, 4 plus 3. Does what's inside parentheses change?
Yes.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
So if what's inside parentheses changes, is it associative or commutative?
Associative.
It is associative. Questions so far? Okay, let's go to the next page. Blank page. I keep them open if you can. If you can't, that's totally fine. Mine just happen to be front and back. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you guys to make like a column of sorts, I guess. So do like associative, commutative, and identity, just like that. Alright, are we ready? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you one of these cards, and I want you to write it down in whatever column it belongs in. Does that make sense? Okay, so here's what I mean. So here's your first card. So you would write this in under associative, commutative, or identity, whichever one you believe it is. So it says 5 times 4 in parentheses, times 8 outside, and then 5 times 4 times 8 inside parentheses. Alright. Owen, what do you think? Associative, commutative, or identity?
Associative.
Would you all agree with him?
Yeah.
He is correct. That should be under associative. So you should all have it written down 5 times 4 in parentheses times 8 equals 5 times 4 times 8 in parentheses. Is this making sense what I'm asking you to do?
No.
Okay. Here's your next one. 8 equals 0 plus 8. Caitlin, what'd you tell me?
Identity.
Very good. Hopefully we all wrote that under identity. Next one. 9 times 1 equals 9. Emily, what'd you say?
Identity.
Very good. Hopefully we all said identity. Here's your next one. 10 times 8 equals 8 times 10. Sienna, what'd you say?
Commutative.
You are correct. It is commutative. Here's the next one. 1 times 3 inside parentheses times 6 outside equals 6 outside parentheses times 3 times 1 inside parentheses. This is a tricky one. Michael, what'd you tell me?
Commutative.
It is commutative. Why is this one commutative, Michael?
Because the numbers inside the parentheses are the same.
Perfect. That was an excellent response. The numbers inside parentheses are the same. The only thing that changed was the order inside the parentheses. Nicely done. So that should all be under commutative, guys. Here's your next one. 10 plus 0 equals 10. Hopefully we all get this one right, considering that was my example for you, right? What is it, everyone?
Identity.
Good. Here's your next one. 12 plus 3 inside parentheses plus 5 outside parentheses. And then 5 outside parentheses plus 12 plus 3 inside parentheses. Another tricky one. What do you think, Marin?
Commutative.
It is commutative as well. The numbers inside parentheses do not change. Therefore, it is commutative. They only changed up the order. Here's your next one. 3 plus 4 inside parentheses plus 6 outside parentheses equals 3 plus outside parentheses and 4 plus 6 inside parentheses. Lindsay, what'd you tell me? You are correct. It is associative because the numbers inside parentheses changed. Last one. 9 plus 4 equals 4 plus 9. What'd you tell me, Trevor?
Commutative.
It is commutative because the only thing changes is the order. Questions on this, guys? Okay, now I need to explain your homework to you. I have 4 minutes to explain it until the bell rings. So what I need you to do is I want you to get your homework assignment, go back to your seat so I can explain it, please, and